Okay, now we're going to go into Max. We're going to import these objects. So I've got my file where I'm keeping them. Inside my content file where you've saved your document, I'm going to go to Export Assets for Max in this folder. Now I've got floor. Let's just start with that. I'm just going to drag and drop, or you can file, import, merge. I'm just going to drag this in, import. Now it's going everywhere. I'm going to hit Alt-W to full size this and Z to find the object. Now if I zoom out, it's way over here from center because in Unreal it wasn't near the center, the world center. I'm going to go to move, which is W, and I'm going to right click, 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 just centering it on the world. And let's click again. Now if we look at this, we can't see much. We don't know if it actually snaps to this grid. So I'm just going to right click this little 3. It's going to pull up a little menu. I'm going to go to home grid, and let's just stretch this grid out. I'm just going to say 100. And let's say 50. And let's see if these actually exactly match the corners. I'm going to hit Alt-W to go to top view. Click over here with the middle mouse, Alt-W. I'm going to hit Z to find it. I'm just going to scroll into these corners. Make sure that they actually line up. Now, if yours don't, and yours very likely don't, because Unreal and Max units are different, Max is going to use the standard inch, I'm going to go into Customize, Unit Setup, and I'm going to make sure I go to System Units, and I'm going to set this to centimeters. Make sure that it says 1, hit OK, and then I'm going to make sure it clicks metric, and it's on centimeters, and hit OK, and that will make your grid match up like this one. Because if this grid doesn't match up, then we take things back into Unreal, they won't match up either. Now, I don't need this object to be above the floor. I want it to be below the floor, but it can only snap here. Do you see how it's not snapping at all? If I click 3 or S, click this right here, not 3, the number key, but here, I'm going to click this, and I'm just going to right click this again. In this first snap, grid points, wherever this, the center of the object is, it's going to snap along these. Now from here, you want to make sure that you have enable access constraints, because without this, say I'm just on red, I should only be able to move side to side, but it will let me do this for some terrible reason. If I click enable, I can never move side to side. It's just going to put me here. Now I want to move this point up here. So I'm going to go to snaps, and instead of grid points, I'm just going to say vertex, and I want to move this pivot up to here. So I'm just going to go to here, which is hierarchy, affect pivot. I'm just going to drag it up to this one. Turn that off. And now I can say don't snap because it snapped to that vert there. Instead of here, snap to grid points again. And I'm just going to go down, and now it's on the floor. All right, now this right here is going to work quite nice for us. I'm just going to turn this off, turn that off, because now I want to take this object and I want to unwrap it. So I'm just going to go back to create, and I can go to modify and convert to editable poly. I'm going to go down in the list to unwrap UVW. Now on this object, let's see how it's unwrapped. Just on polygon, open UV editor, and if I look at this object, I'm just going to hit Control A. A texture will not work on this, not really in a good way. I'm just going to turn this off. Go down to editable poly. Let's just show. I'm going to hit M to bring up materials, or this button right here, and I'm just going to scroll down to where it says Arnold standard surface, drag it out. Don't let all that scare you. Just going to grab a picture. So let's grab this one, doesn't matter what it is. And I'm just going to plug it into the base color. And I'm just going to drag this to here so we can see what it's doing on this object. To turn off this grid, I can hit G to hide it. And you see how that's shiny? I'm going to press M, click on the material, and go down to specular, drag that up so it's can't, so it's basically as rough as it can be. Zoom in and look at it. It's like, all right. So it's multiplying this image everywhere. So I'm going to go back to my unwrap, open UV editor, and I'm going to see what that picture looks like. So I'm just going to hit texture. Need to turn, 1 second, convert to editable poly. Now I can press X to search for modifiers. Unwrap, UVW, open UV editor. This is just going to let me see the picture I've attached, map 1. And this thing is laying it out very weird. I want each face, this little square in the center, this thing is where the picture is, and anything out here, it's going to infinitely tile that picture out. And what I want is this face and this face to have just one picture on it. So I'm just going to select them, go mapping, flatten mapping, hit OK. Now, if you see, I just have a single picture. I'm going to grab everything else, and I'm just going to say Control A, select everything, mapping, flatten mapping. Now, at least this UV space, everything may be distorted because of this picture, but it's all flat and it all works. I'm just going to hit Convert to Editable Poly. Now, this floor is fine. It's unwrapped. If I hit F4, I can see the lines. It's already triangulated, and for a floor that's this simple, that's fine. But let's say G to bring this back up. I need to make the arch. So I'm just going to go into Standard Primitives, into the Create tab, Box, and I'm just going to say turn Grid Snap back on. And I know that if I go click half of this, that's 1 up. Let's just scoot this over first. I'm going to turn Snap off. E to rotate, I'm going to hold Shift, and if I press A, it'll do Angle Snap. I'm going to hold Shift, rotate it up so that it's at 10 degrees. Just going to make a quick room here. And lost my snap, press S or the 3 key. Rotate 180 degrees. Now, if I click on 2 of these, do you see how their pivot becomes in the middle of them? And they're not going to snap to the grid. I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to say each one has their own pivot. So now I can select all of them, hold Shift. I'm just going to hit, they're just instances of each other. Well, one more. Instances save memory in case you have tons of them. Just going to hit 2 so it's long like that. All right. Now let's recreate box. I'm going to say I want it that thick, go up. I'm just going to right click, convert to editable poly. Let's just grab this, go down, connect. Go up, something like that. Press 4 to go to polygon. I'm going to turn off snap. Maybe I won't. Just go down. I'm just going to make sure this object snaps at a point down at its base. This will just really easily let me move it like this. Back to editable poly. Press 4 to go to polygon. I'm just going to hold Shift to drag this out like this. Go halfway across. Alright, let's make sure that it works. Just going to duplicate it. Rotate it. Now, these don't make very good doors, but I know that they fit. So I'm going to make my own half door. I know that it's got to be this wide, this tall, a little taller. There we go. Now, I don't need snaps anymore, so I'm just going to press turn snaps off and convert to editable poly. This is going to be my half. This is my arch. Let's just edit. I'm going to press 2, connect, scoot this thing over, something like that. I'm going to hit plus so I can add another one. Something like there. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to go add a cylinder. So I'm going to go cylinder. I'm going to say something like that. And auto grid on so I can make it the right size. Let's push it into the object a little bit. Something like that. Go back to this object, and I'm just going to go press 1 to get back into editable poly, Alt-C or cut, down here, click. This just is a better curve than my guess. Now I think that actually is probably not correct either, but close enough. Click this, delete. Now I've got this object. I'm going to hit 4 to go to polygon, and I'm going to hold shift and do what they do in Unreal and ZBrush. Just push through, clean it out. Now this is an okay arch. This will work for what we're doing. I think we're good here. I'm just going to press 1. Just gonna 1, 2, 3, click. So that creates a polygon. 4 sides, 1, 2, 3. Polygon. This, you can't always get it. Let's go up. Press 1, get back out of here. Now, all right, so that's my arch. Now let's add a door. I'm just gonna go box. Door looks pretty flush to there, so I'm just gonna turn my grid back on, make sure that my snap's on, and let's see. All right, now I'm just gonna go to hierarchy, scoot this over here, push it into the door, and if you notice, it's not going, exactly in the right spot. I'm just gonna press S and just scoot it in the middle a little bit. Now this, we've got a little bit of space right here. I'm gonna make sure that it effect pivot. I'm just gonna put it, press S so I can snap to the grid. Now with this one, turn that off. I'm gonna hit right click, convert to editable poly. Press 4. Just gonna scoot it in here. And if I look at Alt Q, just to look at this door, bring everything back, click here again, Alt Q so I've got both of them. I'm just gonna hit 1, scoot this back out just a touch. Just gonna go 1 so I can hit points, Control C. All right, and now I'm just gonna hit right click to turn off cut, hit 4 to go to polygons, and I want these other sections this gone, so I'm just going to hold shift, drag that way to remove it. Now I don't want to leave these points undone, I'm just going to press 1 to leave for just a second. Scoot this door back in. Make sure that this side lines up to the grid. And so I'm just going to put it close. Like, I'm just going to click here and I'm going to right click, and instead of grid points, I'm just going to say vertex, and I'm going to go to hierarchy, effect pivot. I'm just going to scoot this thing here, turn that off, change from vertex snapping to grid points, and let's go back to here. All I'm trying to do is make sure that this door, when there's a second one, it doesn't overlap. I'm just going to turn this off, scoot it back into the middle, something like that. And I'm going to press 1, and I'm just going to make sure these points go into the door, so I can't see it through the door. And if I hit F3, I can see through everything. Make it easier to select. And just make sure the door is inside. I think we're good there and there. All right. So that looks all right. Alt-Q to bring everything back. Now, I'm just going to grab the name of this. I'm just going to select it. And I'm going to say this one is Control V, arch, half, and it is 5. It is 4 wide. It is 5 tall and 1 thick. Let's see, get rid of these. And this is door. Just gonna grab this name, door. Now I've got these. I'm just gonna press S so I can snap. Now I'm gonna snap this one. And I'm gonna press S, turn that off, just so it's in the middle. All right, now I'm going to unwrap these. So I'm just going to hit X, unwrap. And these objects are really, really simple. So I don't have to do a ton of work. I'm just going to hit Control A to select every face. And I'm going to hit mapping. And as long as they're just flat like these and nothing simple, I'm just going to hit flatten mapping. And you're going to see everything gets laid out flat. So this face and all of these are one piece, really easy to texture, but I don't like it laid out like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this face, and I don't want to do that upside down in Photoshop, so I'm going to click this. This is the mirror tool. It flips things. I'm just going to click and hold it down to flip it this way, and I'm going to say it's going that way, so I'm just going to click and hold here. And I need everything to be inside this. I'll do the same thing with this one, which is the other side. I'm just going to say flip. And you can always, as long as you're clicking this, you can move things and rotate them like that. Grab a point, flip it. Now, let's see. Flip it this way, and I'm going to put them exactly on top of each other so that if I do the door correctly on one side, I know that it'll be correct on the other. Now for the other pieces, so like this, and you can always hold Alt and hit Q to be able to see better, and G to turn off grids when I'm not in the unwrap menu. Now this doesn't unwrap in a nice strip, it breaks them up. So I'm just going to go mapping, unfold mapping, just gonna try to lay it out flat. Just make sure that it fits in here. And I'm gonna turn on checkerboard pattern. And what this is gonna let me do is I wanna make sure that these letters are the same size as these, or really close. Get this to sit in there, just scooting it in a bit. Because if it goes out, it causes problems. It's just going to duplicate things on the outside. Now I've got the top flat. Put it in here. This. Now this is the back. And you might think, well, I'm never going to see this. Well, you never know when you're going to use these hidden parts. And since it's going to be stone too, I'm actually just going to stick it right here. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one as well. Just rotate it 90 degrees. Top and bottom. All right. Convert to editable poly. Now I'm going to Alt-Q, and I'm going to grab this object too, and I'm going to hold Control and grab this one, and I'm going to hit X, unwrap. Open UV Editor. Now I'm going to grab this, and I have to go down to Polygon. This here, just going to scoot it up, and it's attached to things, so I'm just going to grab all of that. First, I'm just actually going to back out so they're not all selected, so I can unwrap this one by itself. Grab polygons, Alt-Q, open UV Editor, and I'm just going to hit Control-A, mapping, flatten mapping, to get things separated. Now this part of the door, I'm just going to click, and I'm going to say unfold mapping, unfold mapping. Then I'm going to grab these. They're already flat. I just want them to be this side. I'm just going to flip, make sure that it's exactly on top of the other one, so that if I create a nice door, these are the bottom. It's going to put these wood sections on top of each other. Make sure that I can see that it's not distorted. I want it to look like this. All the squares to be about the same size. And you see these are not the same size. Not at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab these, and I'm going to, if I shrink them down, they get bigger. And if I hold Control, it'll remain proportionate. I'm just going to do something like this. Let's say, needs to be a little bit smaller. Just holding Control to make it proportionate. A little bit of stretching this way, but that's all right. Grab the door, and now I'm going to grab everything and just scoot it off of there. I'm going to hit Convert to Editable Poly, Alt-Q, convert that to an editable poly. Just going to grab both of them, X, unwrap, open UV Editor. Now they'll both be together like this. Now here's stone, and here's wood. I'm just going to grab the door. This is the most important parts of the door. Make sure it fits in here. Just something like that. Not overlapping anything. Grab all this. Just changing to polygons by clicking 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 edge. And make sure that it all fits in here. Just hold Control, scoot it in just a touch. All right, so I've got wood, wood, all that makes sense. Just gonna make it a little bit cleaner. All right, now with these, I have two objects, and I'm just going to go Tools, Render UV Template. I'm just going to say 2048 by 2048. That's the texture size. And I'm going to say, where do I save it? Here. Now you'll want to find your Unreal folder. Mine's in its Documents. Where are we at? Unreal. This is why you want to save where your project is. And I'm going to say this. I need max export. And I'm just going to say, what is this one? Arch and door UVs. And I always name it lines at the end, so I know what I'm getting into. And I'm going to make sure I save this as a PNG. It makes it really easy to have it separated on layers. And I'm going to hit save. All right, right click, convert to editable poly. I'm going to do the same thing for this. I'm going to go X, unwrap. I've got this, and I'm just going to go Tools, Render UV Template, 2048 by 2048, render. I can click this to save, or I can save here. Same file. I'm going to call this floor underscore UVs lines. These are just for Photoshop, so I know where to put textures, and I'm just going to save it as a PNG. I want to make sure that I say alpha channel. Convert to editable poly. Now this is floor object 008. I'm just going to grab all these that are not that one. And just get rid of the 008. It'll make sense in just a second. Now I've got these, turn G off. Now we're going to start the texturing of these objects.